This meeting of the Starkville Board of Aldermen will now come to order. Please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Alderman Vaughn would like to yield to Pastor Middleton to deliver us a word of prayer, and then we will observe a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the blessings of this day that you've granted to us, God, in various ways. Father, we just pray tonight for this board, this mayor, Father, these aldermen. Lord, as they come tonight, know that they'll discuss many proposals and considerations and business matters. Father, I pray that you'd lead them in those various tasks that they face. God, thank you for those who have come tonight. Lord, I don't know the struggles of their life, and I don't know where they are tonight, but God, you do. I pray that you just continue to bless us, continue to guide us, and direct us in all of our endeavors. It's in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
You have before you a copy of the written agenda. I do not have a written. Can I borrow it? Are there any proposed changes to the agenda as written? Any proposed changes, Alderman Maynard?
Mr. Mayor, I understand that we need to, did not get on the agenda, but we need to have the second public hearing for the ordinance establishing fines and penalties for overcrowding of facilities and structures. That meeting, the first public hearing was held the last meeting, and the second public hearing would have moved to this meeting, just failed to get added to the agenda. So I would like to add that, and then add consideration and discussion of adoption of that ordinance establishing fines and penalties for overcrowding of facilities and structures within the city of Starkville, Mississippi, and that is at the table.
You want it added at the end of board business?
That would be fine.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to add the item at the table, which is both a public hearing. It would be our second public hearing of the evening, and it will be item D under board business. The discussion and consideration of the adoption of an ordinance establishing fines and penalties for overcrowding of facilities and structures within the city of Starkville, Mississippi. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Is there any objection? Is there any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none. And I neglected to mention a request that I have for you. You have got a resolution at the table. It is a simple ceremonial resolution that relates to the project, the $750,000 appropriation we received to study the Highway 12 corridor between the city and the university. MDOT has asked for a ceremonial resolution signing on Thursday. I didn't get the resolution until yesterday, and since it has to be signed before our next board meeting, I am asking that you consider it tonight so that I will have signing authority for that ceremony. I would request somebody add that to the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the agenda be approved with those two items, please.
All right, motion has been made by Alderman Perkins to add an item C under mayor's business, the discussion and consideration of a resolution for the partnership of the city of Starkville, Mississippi, or of the city of Starkville, the Mississippi Department of Transportation, and Mississippi State University regarding the committed improvements to State Route 12 at Russell Street in Starkville, and to approve the agenda as revised. Alderman Perkins, that's your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Perkins, you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, motion is approved. You have no consent agenda tonight. The first matter for your consideration is the minutes of the September 1st, 2015 meeting of the Board of Aldermen. Discussion.
Mr. Attorney, they meet your approval, you've reviewed them?
I have and made proposed corrections to the city clerk. Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, with that recommendation, I move that the minutes be approved as recommended by the city attorney.
Motion has been made by Alderman Perkins to approve the minutes of the September 1st, 2015 meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen as approved by the City Attorney. Alderman Perkins, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Perkins, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. We'll now move to announcements and comments by the mayor and members of the board. I have no comments this evening. Are there any comments from the members of the board? Alderman Nguyen.
Chief Yarborough, if you will you please come to the front? Good evening, Chief Yarborough. On October 8th, Mayor and members of the board, I had an opportunity to attend the Fire Academy class for elected officials in Jackson with our chief. And I can truly say that, Chief, it was a very learning experience. I've always had an appreciation for firemen that only deepened that for me. And let me say this to you. The code rebate that you spoke about at our board meeting, I got an opportunity to learn a little bit about that. And I hope every resident here will always fill out their census, because I learned that the residents here receive $5.25. And that's how they base the code rebate money on each resident. And we receive that, and that comes to about $131,000, I think I calculated, for your department. Now, while we were at the academy, I learned this about some commercial washers that I'm not familiar with at the fire department. And the instructor asked in the class how many of your departments, because there were many other fire chiefs in the room, had those commercial fire departments for your special gear that you all use when you all go out into a fire. And I noticed that you were not able to raise your hand, and you were actually sitting on the front row over there to the right. And so many of the other hands were going up. And at break, I asked you if you had that, and you told me no. Chief, that was very troubling to me. And of course, it's not your fault, because sometimes you want to come before us with things that you know that we're going to approve for you. But that's certainly important. And I definitely want you, and I spoke with the budget chair regarding this. I hope that you'll get with him and bring that forward for us to pass for you. Certainly, if we can spend up to $15,000 for some Christmas lights, we need to be able to support you and your guys with the appropriate washer that you need for your uniforms, because I learned that those toxins can spread cancer in there, and they're not treated properly when you all return them and just hang them up. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for the job that you do, and I'm so supportive of your department. I hope that one day we as a board can get your other fire department over there, Fire Station 5, I think it is, that's not staffed, fully staffed. That would be something I definitely want to see us as a board support. And again, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Okay? Miss Emma Gibson, will you please come down? I got some good news to tell about your department, okay? Miss Emma, I received a telephone call from Mr. Von Blaylock, and I got some good news, and of course you know about this. Mr. Blaylock company is the Southern Procurement Services. You all, members of the board and the mayor, he purchased a football ticket for the MSU and Kentucky game for all 35 employees over there at the sanitation department. That includes Miss Emma and her complete staff. As if that's not enough, on Saturday at 4 o'clock, and members of the board and the mayor, he didn't leave you all out either. All of the sanitation workers and the city employees, members of the board and the mayor, you all are invited to a North Carolina-style pig picking tailgate for the sanitation workers. And that pig, I'm told, he told me, is 225 pounds. He will have all the side items there. And right now, he does not know where the location will be, because he can't select that until Friday at 5 o'clock when they allow them to pick out their tailgating location. So once I find out that, I'll see to it that everyone receives their email. So Ms. Emma, I want to make sure that we thank him, and we'll definitely get him a thank you card, and we'll all sign it for him. So thank you so much, and that was so kind of Mr. Blaylock. In addition to that, Mr. Blaylock was at our meeting some time ago with the Devin Mitchell parents, and he has decided to additionally give them something on behalf of our city. That we gave them some funding, and he's going to do likewise, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. So I thought that that was a very kind gesture. Thank you, Ms. Emma. Okay, the partnership, and I see Ms. Jennifer Gregory is here. Will you come on down? Ms. Gregory, on Wednesday and Thursday, as you know, we hosted elected officials from all 82 counties, more than 300 of them. And let me say this to you. The partnership helped set us on the map with MML. The food items that you all selected, they just bragged on them and just had a really great time. Our city did so well at hosting this, and this was our first time in our new convention center, and it went off without a hitch. And Mrs. Sherry Vize, the president of MML, she said, we want to come back to Bulldog Country. And this is what I said. You're welcome to come to God's country anytime you get ready. So I just want to say thank you so much, and I did see you over there on, I think it was Thursday that you came over. Yes, so thank you so much, you and the partnership. Thank you.
ma'am.
My last one that I want to acknowledge is Alderman Maynard, who is in his nice pink tie tonight, recognizing breast cancer awareness. Thank you, Alderman Maynard. And I want to tell everybody something, because I discovered this evening. This is the last meeting that the mayor, Alderman Maynard, and Alderman Little will attend in this room tonight, as they will be out of town on official city business. So this is the last time that they will occupy the seats in this boardroom. And I need to share this. Tonight, Alderman Little will not be sitting in this chair the next time over there at the new office, because he always laughs and we always check and see if we got the chair that has the wiggly arm. So I want to let everybody know that. So that is all that I have to say tonight. So thank you so much, Mayor and members of the board. I yield the floor.
Any further comments by the members of the board? Any further comments? Alderman Walker.
I'd just like to point out to the mayor and the board and the general public that the public library, the READ project that we approved, I don't know, about this time last year in the spring, Travis Crabtree, the MSU, the former MSU student who was in charge of that project, has received, and that project has received a National Student Award from the American Society of Landscape Architects for community service. He will be receiving that award on behalf of the city and the library later this month at the national convention. So what seems like a simple project has gotten a lot of publicity nationally that helps Starkville in every way, and shows that not only is read and literacy important in our community, but also art has a place here, and that's being rewarded. So congratulations for a student on having an excellent project and being rewarded for it.
Further comments by the members of the board? Any further comments? Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll move to citizen comments. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Greeting to the men board, my name is Alvin Turner, Ward 7. I would like to recognize Vice Mayor Perkins, Alderman Vaughn, and Alderman Walker. The old man told me that if you don't drink and chase women, you won't age fast. So I take that as wisdom. I was born 1959, so it was misprint in the article. I'm not 65, but I'm 55, and I'll be 56 in next month. That's misprint. The people would like for the young people to be a little bit more better, because we're getting into the dangerous time of year, and it let them know it won't hurt if the police officer tell you to put the gun down, put the gun down. If he said put the knife down. If he tell you to get control of the dog, get control of the dog. All right, it'll make it more easy, because we're getting into the holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments?
My name is Clifton Taylor. I'm a resident of Ward 5, and I'm here tonight as one of the assistant leaders for Starkville's Trail Life USA troop. Trail Life USA is a Christian-based outdoor adventure and leadership program for boys ages K through 12th grade, and we have a small group of our 9th through 12th grade boys here tonight to observe our city government as part of our citizenship badge, and they are here to observe you doing what you do. And like I said, we have a small group here tonight. Unfortunately, we had many who could not be here due to scheduling conflicts, and unfortunately, we will not be able to stay the whole time due to other scheduling conflicts. But we just wanted to be here, be a presence, introduce ourselves to the board. We are a relatively young organization. We're about 2 years old. The troop here in Starkville has been functioning for almost a year and a half now. And we meet on Monday nights at 7 o'clock at the Grace Presbyterian Church. Thank you.
Thank you,
Everybody
Mr. Taylor.
stand
Can
up.
you have the members of your troop stand up? Thank you.
Thank you.
Further, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor, fellow board members. My name is Chris Taylor, and I just want to remind everyone, 2 weeks from today, election day, get out. We need your votes. We need 100% of eligible voters to get out and participate. You remember, it's your government, it's your supervisors, it's your governors, it's everything that affects us in this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Further citizen comments? Do we have any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Seeing none, we'll move to public appearances. And we have 2 public appearances scheduled tonight. The first is by Jennifer Gregory, presenting the CVB budget for fiscal year 2016.
Mayor, good evening, Mayor and Board. We come here every year to present our budget to you as is required by the 2% food and beverage legislation, but it's also our pleasure to share a little bit with you about what we do over the course of the year. I'd considered doing a presentation, but I know that y'all have a lot of business to get to, and hopefully you see a lot of what we do in the community. But as you'll see in your packet, our budget is presented. We are projecting about a $13,500 increase in revenue as compared to the 14-15 fiscal year. And as you know, the 2% revenue has increased steadily over the last few years. We also receive the 2% hotel tax. So you'll see those revenues and expenditures are separated in the budget. With a new hotel coming on board, the Courtyard Marriott, that obviously will provide additional revenue for us. But we have projected a fairly conservative estimate just because over the last several years we've experienced some difficulties with that revenue coming in as projected. Some of the hotels don't necessarily pay on time all the time. So we are fairly conservative with that. Also with the mill, I think all of us will enjoy a nice increase in the food and beverage tax revenue. Just the MML event alone, I think their food bill was, well, I don't want to say in a public meeting, but it was quite significant, and so we'll all benefit from that slightly. Some of the highlights from the last year, obviously, you know, we continue to brand Starkville as Mississippi's college town, and that's been very productive for us. And we've seen that brand be picked up on national publicity, especially with Mississippi State's success with football last year. We do a lot with not a huge amount of revenue. Our budget is about $435,000 as compared to some of the communities in the Golden Triangle. You know, theirs are double and triple what ours is. So we feel like we do a lot with what we have, and we are the single organization that promotes Starkville as a tourist destination. And so that's something that we have considerably increased is our promotions. Tourism expenditures over the last 5 to 6 years, over the last 6 years have increased by almost 45%. So that's significant. That's something that we all benefit from. And I think as we all continue to work together, we'll see that continue to increase. Last year we provided about $55,000 in grants to some of our partners, entities like the Starkville Area Arts Council, the Mississippi Horse Park, the Oktibbeha County Heritage Museum, and entities that promote the quality of life in Starkville as well as the tourism component. We have recently started promoting and branding Starkville as a culinary destination, as a restaurant destination in the region, which we know it is from studying some of our trends and a zip code analysis that we did during Starkville Restaurant Week. And actually Starkville was recognized in Restaurant Business Magazine as the 5th best city in the United States to open a restaurant. That's a very widely accepted and read publication in the restaurant industry, and so we were very pleased with that. I'm very proud of our restaurant culture here. And like I said, we've seen national publicity for our community largely in thanks to the success of Mississippi State University football. But we've seen our event Pumpkin Palooza broadcast on ESPN and different things like that, which is great for our community. It puts us on the map and hopefully in a very positive light. So we feel like we're very good stewards of this money. We hope you think we are as well, and we appreciate what you guys do, your in-kind services to help us put on these events. We think they certainly contribute to the quality of life, but also in everything we do, we hope to have an economic impact. These events are fun, and they do add to the quality of life, but at the end of the day, we want people to spend money in this community with our merchants to increase the sales tax revenue as well as the 2% revenue. So that's all I have, but I'll be glad to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Are there any questions or comments for Ms. Gregory? Any questions or comments from the members of the board? Any questions or comments? All right, and I did notice that you don't have the approval of this listed as business tonight. I will entertain a motion to approve at this time. Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of the proposed Convention and Visitors Bureau, I guess we should use the legal name, Visitors and Convention Council annual budget as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Saying none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Thank you, Ms. Gregory.
Thank you.
And our second public appearance this evening is by Phil Walker, and Phil is leading our comprehensive plan team. They have been here since yesterday in a flurry of activities throughout the city, and he is going to update the board on the progress of his team.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. And I'll try to be pretty brief about this. I think most of you are familiar with the project, but it's a citywide plan, a comprehensive plan. They call it comprehensive because it's comprehensive in nature. It addresses everything from land use and physical form, transportation, economic development, housing, all those sorts of issues. And so that's what we're doing. We've got a team of consultants that include other planners, landscape architects, urban designers, an economist, and a transportation planner. And so we've been here several times. We've had done a lot of background research. We've had a lot of public input up till even this week. And this week, we're doing what they call a charrette. And a charrette is a term for I try to kind of describe it in one sentence. It is a multi-day intensive brainstorming session where you try to come up with the key concepts for a plan, and there's a lot of public engagement. So, for example, yesterday was day one of this 4-day charrette, and we met, I guess it was about 5:30 at the Sportsplex. And by the way, I've got to commend your Sportsplex staff for doing a great job of being very hospitable and helping us kind of get organized. And so we got the consultant team together. We invited any citizens who had an interest, and I see some faces that were there last night. And we had about 70 people that participated. And we sort of, and of those 70, I'd say thanks to Alderman Walker, probably a dozen of them were MSU landscape architecture students. And we had, we essentially deputized citizens to be planners for the night. So we give them a little presentation with all of our findings so far, break them up into teams. We had 9 different tables. Each table had a base map and about 8 or 9 or 10 people gathered around it. They had magic markers, and we kind of led them through a process. It was fairly structured, but a process where each team comes up with their own plan. And after about an hour and a half of that exercise, they regrouped, and each team presented in about 5 minutes the key ideas for their plan. So it's really instructive for us. You know, we hear some ideas that aren't necessarily viable, but we also hear some really good ideas. And so what we've been doing now is taking all those ideas and incorporating them, and we're going to work furiously for the next couple of days. And then Thursday night, back at the Sportsplex at 6 o'clock, we're going to present the concept plan. So we're hoping as many citizens of the community will come out as possible.
Questions or comments for Mr. Walker? Alderman Carver.
What I heard in conversation today was the word blight was brought up many times last night. Is that true? As far as a fear of blight in this town, and how was that discussed last night? Because I didn't know what that fear is coming from.
You know, I personally, no, I wasn't able to, I kind of wandered around, I listened to what people were saying at tables, I heard the presentations. I don't recall the term blight. Does anybody else, Mayor?
I don't recall it.
Mr. Walker, y'all remember? I'm not saying it wasn't mentioned. I I just didn't hear it.
Maybe in a table discussion.
Yeah.
How do you think it went last night?
I thought it was great. There was, the turnout was good. And in fact, it was a perfect size because if it had been much larger, it would be tougher to manage. But we had a lot of diversity. People seemed really engaged. They were excited. There was a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and people like to be heard. You know, everybody has different opinions. So,
If you could give us a top 1, 2, or maybe 3 key takeaways, what was your general trend of what you heard that they want us, which way they want to see us go?
there are a lot of different things we heard. A lot of people want to see. Let's start with downtown. A lot of people want to see downtown continue to be vibrant and grow, maybe even grow geographically north and south. There's ideas of more housing that would be closer in. People want to see alternative ways to get around beyond just driving a vehicle. More greenways, more bike paths, that sort of thing. Trying to think about other, traffic always comes up. So looking, of course, you have the bypass around the south that's already proposed, but looking at those kind of ideas. Another idea I thought was really exciting was, of course, you have a rail line, which isn't very active, but it's still technically a rail line, and looking at a way to accommodate leaving the rail line, but maybe having a path along it. A lot of us have heard of rails to trails, where they convert rail lines to trails, but there's also a bunch of examples of rails with trails, where you leave the railroad intact but have a trail along with it. In fact, there's a whole website we just got rails with trails. It's kind of interesting. So those are just some of the ideas.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments for Mr. Walker? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Walker.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right, the next matter before you is the first public hearing on an ordinance of the city of Starkville, Mississippi, granting a non-exclusive franchise to Campus Communications Group to lay, construct, maintain, replace, repair, and operate fiber optic cable and appurtenant telecommunications facilities in, under, over, and across and along all streets, avenues, alleys, highways, roads, bridges, viaducts, and public places in the city of Starkville, Mississippi. This is a franchise group for another group that wants to do a fiber optic project. Although this would be a general franchise agreement, but the nature of what this group does, I think, is going to be more limited than the projects that C Spire and Max South have going right now. They specialize in getting fiber optic communications to student housing. So I think this is a nice complement to what we have going on because right now some of our larger apartment complexes that are on the periphery of the city are not in the areas that have qualified for the C Spire program, nor are they really close. Max South probably will get to those areas at some point, but I would anticipate, since they're on the periphery of Max South's coverage areas, they will be among the last places to receive coverage for Max South as well. The franchise agreement is a standard franchise agreement that has been drafted to mirror the franchise agreement we have existing with Max South. Is that correct?
And all the others.
Okay.
It's a combination of all the current
Why
franchise
don't you
agreements.
give
the
some of
city
the
has.
highlights of the franchise agreement?
Sure. Campus Communications Group is an outfit out of Ohio, and as the mayor said, right now the franchise agreement is narrowly tailored to provide fiber optic cable. And in communications with them, they represent that most of that will be, if not all, underground. But it's in substantially final form. There's going to need to be a couple of tweaks to paragraph 1 on page 2 of what the information you have. But basically, in a nutshell, it's a 5-year deal with an option to renew for 5 years. This has to be an ordinance by state statute, so this is the first public hearing. The second public hearing would occur at our next meeting, and the board could act on that. The franchise fee is the most money the law allows, which is 5% of their gross revenue. And their gross revenue is defined broadly to include any and all revenue except revenue expressly excluded by state or federal law. So again, we're charged by the Federal Communication Act to not limit competition and to devise agreement that is in, quote, rough parity with all of the other agreements that we have. And so we took all of the other agreements and took the average of those terms basically, but made sure we got maximum revenue, and that's what you see before you. But those are the big picture strokes.
Alderman Carter.
In 5 years, is it by ordinance that we renew this, or is this just an automatic renewal? You
It's
said by
not,
option.
it's an optional renewal.
And then the second question I had somebody ask me, so I'll just ask it. I didn't know the answer was, it seems like a lot of fiber optic people are coming, you know. So you're saying by federal law, if 10 more want to apply, we have to accept 10 more companies? I mean,
We can't unreasonably restrict. We can't unreasonably restrict competition under the Federal Communications Act. So if there's a need there and they can show need, 10 may be too much. To use your example, there may be a way the city could show, no, that's too much. But one more on top of what we already have now, I think fits under the act.
And the need for that is the fact that this is going to run to the great student body population. You're staying out by the roundabout?
I think in all likelihood, it's gonna run through the areas that are least likely to be served the quickest by either of the other two programs.
So other than giving up our right-of-way use, I mean, there's no cost to the city other than a 5% gain of gross.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and in your scenario, of if you had 10, our staff would probably have some concern about the amount of right-of-way that we have down there, but I would view even that as a good thing because it's competition, and competition breeds more options for consumers, which usually means better services and better prices.
Thank you.
If we take this on, I will ask you to make sure they're more community friendly than C-spots being just coming in folks' yards and digging up their yards and leaving it and knocking on the doors and let them know that I'm fin to do something in your yard. I hope that you will make that proposal, that it be more friendly. And if they coming to someone out, at least you can go knock on the door and let them know that you're finna do something in their yard.
Alderman Vaughn, your point's well taken. We've got a paragraph in here, section 8A, that talks about that, and we may even tighten that language going forward between this hearing and the next hearing.
Further questions or comments from the members of the board? Further questions or comments? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll now hear any citizen comments on the proposed franchise agreement. Any citizen wishing to make comments on the proposed agreement may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Adam Turner, Ward 7. As I said at the last meeting, let us be careful. We letting a lot of stuff come in. It aggravates the people. You definitely don't want to get shot at, even though we're not supposed to discharge the firearm in the city. But the people that paying taxes, city and school taxes, they do not want to be treated any kind of way. Let's be careful. Because we only have 55 uniformed police officers. They can't be everywhere. But people want to be treated with respect. You can't afford to let any and everything come in your neighborhood, in the town. Just because it work for some people, that don't mean that it work for others. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Any further comments on the proposed franchise agreement? Any further comments? Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll move to our second public hearing on the overcrowding ordinance. And I'll ask Fire Marshal McCurdy to come forward and provide a brief introduction.
This would just be the second public hearing from the ordinance that we talked about last meeting, so open to any questions or comments anybody's got.
Any questions or comments for Chief Yarborough or Fire Marshal McCurdy? Any questions or comments? Alderman Walker.
I do. Just reading through this, Fire Marshal McCurdy, I just have a couple questions that I'd like for you to address for me. One, it says that who's going to be responsible for saying whether or not somebody's in violation? Is that gonna be just the fire marshals, or is anybody that the chief can recognize?
Right now, I think it'll be your two fire marshals, it'll be me or the other fire marshal's team.
Okay. The other question is, looking under section 5, under penalty, it says, you got 5 different violations there, and immediate life threatening, and it just says any violation that constitutes a clear and immediate threat to human life, versus a first offense. Can you just walk us through a little bit what is an example of something that constitutes an immediate life threatening situation?
Obviously, that's gonna be something that's not questionable, it's gonna be something that's very obvious to everybody involved. A good example of something like that would be, say this, we take this room right here, and there's two means of egress, 2 ways out, and let's just say that they barricaded or blocked an exit for whatever reason. Maybe they've got furniture, maybe they've got sound equipment at a nightclub that's blocking it. That would be an immediate life-threatening situation where if something were to occur, people couldn't exit in a timely manner, so that would be, or chaining the doors. The biggest one that comes to mind, and I can't imagine this happening here in Starkville, but some of you guys are probably real familiar with the Rhode Island Station nightclub fire that happened many years ago, where a band came in and they used pyrotechnics in their show that weren't approved for, and it caught the building on fire and 100 people died. Something like that, that's an obvious show of immediate life threatening would constitute that section.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen. At this time, anyone wishing to speak on the proposed overcrowding ordinance may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Aldermen again. And as I said in the last meeting, we have people that have post-traumatic stress. Don't know exactly all of that, but the people in the military, they can kind of tell you about post-traumatic stress. We have people that have mental ill problems. Sometimes they won't take their medication so that they can drink. You have a problem with either 2 women fighting over a man or 2 men fighting over a woman. Let's take these things under consideration, because we get a crowded room. It really can be a problem.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Any further comments on the proposed overcrowding ordinance? Any further comments? Any further comments? Seeing none, I will conclude this, the second public hearing on the overcrowding ordinance. The next matter before you is the consideration of the approval. Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve of Williams Transfer as the moving company of the new municipal building in place of the vendor approved at the October 1st meeting at the same cost of $7,970 as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second? Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, basically just the other company had another engagement come up, and that was all this is.
They did. They pulled out of the contract. So we were left without a moving company, and the city clerk did a fantastic job scouring the corners of the state to find somebody that was available, because for a little while there, we didn't know if we were going to get to move on the date that we had set.
Good deal. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter before you is a discussion and consideration. Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to authorize the issuance of certificates of occupancy on completed residents at the cottages at Starkville Station as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? All right, motion dies for lack of a second. I think that's probably, or I hope it's because I need to provide some context on this one. The developer of the subdivision is here, Mr. Brad Clark, and he is in the final stages of his development. he has several residences that have completed the life safety portions of inspections and are fully inhabitable and could pass the inspections as a standalone building project for a certificate of occupancy. Now, ordinarily in a situation like this, I have some administrative discretion, and in this situation, I would go ahead and issue the certificates of occupancy, even though he still has outstanding infrastructure and amenity items that he has yet to complete. The reason I would be comfortable going ahead and issuing the certificate of occupancy is because he is more than substantially bonded. He did a final plat on the front end of the process, which means he paid a higher bond than a developer would normally put up. We still have that entire bond, and he has completed a lot of those items. So in the event that all else failed and Mr. Clark did not bring his infrastructure and amenities up to our standards, we have full legal ability to recoup all of that. Where the time is of the essence is, of course, as a developer of a detached single-family subdivision, he's got houses that he could move off of his inventory into the ownership of the homeowners, but he can't do that until he gets a certificate of occupancy. The reason I am bringing it to you, and I didn't use administrative authority, is when you approved this plat, you put a condition in the plat that said no certificate of occupancy could be issued until all infrastructure work and amenities were complete. So I don't have the authority, absent this order, to issue those certificates of occupancy. And once again, the developer is here, and of course our staff is here for questions as well. Discussion. Alderman Little.
Mr. Sanders, you come forward. Could you give us a little more background on this this project for us, as far as how we got here? As far as, I'm assuming Mr. Clark was okay with that condition going in, and now he's not.
The property was rezoned and it went forth with preliminary plat with a different owner. During that time, Mr. Clark purchased the property. It's my understanding that before we went to final plat, some items came up that he discovered, but they are part of the record and part of the approval. So my staff is having to follow those conditions.
What would be staff's recommendation on this?
Typically, with any development, a bond is placed to cover any type of infrastructure that is not put in place by the developer. So he or she could go forward with construction. Now, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended items such as the bioretention pond, walking trails be placed prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. That is generally not the normal course of action. If there something to grant comfort to the board, a possible friendly suggestion is allowing COs to be issued on all but maybe 3 or the last 3-4 houses. And if those items, the amenity items are not in place, then COs cannot be issued for those last 4 houses. That's just a suggestion.
Thank you.
Further discussion.
May I be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Attorney, the way that this is written, originally written with the conditions, is that bond that's on file, is the revenue from that bond available to complete those amenities should this developer walk off that job?
That's what's represented. It's actually in double the amount of what's left to be done. So the city would be fully covered by the bond.
Mr. Sanders, has he had any, Mr. Clark, had any other developments here in the city in the past?
Not to my knowledge, not since I've been here about 2.5 years, but
Mr. Clark is here to answer any questions which the board may have.
Have you developed here in the city in the past?
No, I have not built, I've not developed in the city, but I have built stuff in the university, and I'm currently building a assisted living facility on South Montgomery right now in the city. But I promise you, I am more motivated than anybody in this room to get through this project. And I feel like by the end of the year, we'll be completely through and done. The amenity areas are, I'm just now at the point where I can finish it. And the bond that you've got is basically an insurance policy where you're the obligee. It cannot be released back to the travelers until the city has authorized it, says, hey, I've done what I've said I'm gonna do, and then it gets released. You're covered threefold on the bond.
So you think you'll be done by the end of the year?
Yes.
100% of the
Yes.
project?
That's what he got in here.
I rode through that this afternoon. It looked like you were in the short roads on getting it all
Yeah,
done.
it's come along, and these items, the reason that they haven't been done is that it has to be, everything's sequential in construction. And I'm just now to the point where I can get them done. We'll be back in there, tomorrow, starting on the pavilion foundation and the other stuff will be coming online here over the course of the next few weeks. I'm just now at that point where I can get it done. And as far as the earlier comments in here about the condition of the permit was that the common area landscaping structures and walking trails shall be completed prior to the certificate of occupancy for any new home. I was not aware of that until 2 weeks ago when we called for the city vote. Now that's possibly my fault. I went to planning and zoning and I was not here. The project was on consent agenda before, and I didn't know it. It's my fault, I didn't know, but I think that it's very reasonable to ask that the subdivision bond that is put up is now worth 3 times what the amount of work is, and you're more than adequately covered. And I can tell you that if I default on a bond with travelers, it will affect all my business, and I will be out of town. I'll be out of business. It's not gonna happen. I will do what I need to do.
Alderman Little. I'd move approval of issuing the COs contingent upon the 3 final homes being completed and all the conditions being met before those final 3 houses.
All right, so do you want to,
How do we?
you want to reserve the last 3 houses?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
No reservations.
all right.
It's, how
How do we do the style of that?
do you,
Just like that.
Okay, as written, Mr. Mayor. You want me to read it?
all right, so the motion is a motion to authorize the issuance of certificates of occupancy on completed residents at the cottages at Starkville Station as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Alderman Perkins?
Mr. Mayor, I want to support the motion. Mr. Sanders, thank you for your great job. The gentleman said that he didn't have any notice about the amenities required. We'll just make sure we continue to work hard and do what we need to do to make sure, and not say that you didn't do anything, but he, indicated to us publicly that he wasn't aware. And I know y'all doing an excellent job of notifying everybody of what the conditions are. So we'll continue to make sure everybody know what that.
Just to clarify that, I did not realize there was a requirement to be complete prior to issuing the certificate. I've understood the scope of work since the beginning. Buddy and his group have been good to work with to guide me through this process, but I'm just now at the point where I can do it.
Right, Mr. Sanders, you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I'm ready to vote. Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? Alderman
I just
Walker?
want to make sure that this is clear. So normally are these bonds not for just infrastructure as opposed to amenities? And so are you saying that this bond would also cover the amenities, pavilion and other things and not just the street overlay? Normally aren't these bonds looking to make sure that the road and the other pedestrian infrastructure is in place? Does it normally cover amenities and so forth? And I guess that's my question is if we do allow this to pass tonight, are we going to have the mechanism in place that will require that the job is complete that was originally approved by the board?
Mr. Clark, can you speak to the scope of your bond?
Yes, I can. This is a bond is simply an insurance policy. And much like if you contract for a road or street or a building, you'll get a payment and performance bond, which guarantees that the contractor is going to pay his bills and guarantees that he's going to perform and fulfill the terms of the contract. Well, this is a similar bond, and that's basically an insurance policy. This is similar to that. And these things are difficult to get, by the way. But the Travelers Company, can I show you this on the attachment to it? Here's the front page of the bond. And then on the back of it this is the attachment, which is the scope of work for which the bond covers. There's $178,000 that's on the scope of work, and these numbers are actually higher numbers than what I presented to the city, and they were raised. So the total was $178,000, which included sidewalks, the surface course of asphalt, landscape and amenities and sod, the underground electrical conduit, and some fine grade. So that number was doubled to 200%, which this bond is in the amount of $357,714. And I've already done much of the work that's on there. You're adequately covered, and I cannot be released from this bond from the Travelers Corporation until the city of Starkville writes me a letter that said it's done.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Clark, on that note, just to tag that point and be crystal clear for the record, your representation to the city is that the bond covers common area landscaping, structures, and walking trail. That was the previous condition attached by the P&Z.
That's correct.
And you're on the hook for that, and your intent is to complete those items?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And if I make one other comment, I don't want to jeopardize y'all's meeting, but we work all over the country, and anywhere you have got 2 fiber optic people or 2 cable people, it's a lot better on us. Y'all are doing the right thing.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Was there a nay? The motion clearly passes. Next matter you have before you is a resolution for the motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve a resolution for the partnership with the city of Starkville, the Mississippi Department of Transportation, and Mississippi State University regarding the committed improvements to State Route 12 at Russell Street in Starkville as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the matter?
I want to take this opportunity, I should have done it earlier in board comment, but we had a groundbreaking at the mill yesterday, and we were well represented. I would say we had Congressman Harper and the governor, Castleberry was on stage, the developer, and our mayor did an excellent job as well representing us as a board of aldermen. I would say that you did a good job. He was very good in talking about the complexities of this project and just how many times somebody said it could have crashed and burned, but it didn't, and to come out just as nice as it is. This is just another document. We've gone through many of them to kind of focus on that corridor between, which is what this is Russell Street between the university and the town. And just again, thank you for your comments you said yesterday. I think you did a good job. I think it was a phenomenal turnout. I think that's just, you may want to speak to that, but just that, as Mr. Mark Castleberry said, we're open for business, and they're already booking out on the hotel and filling up, and it's just going to be a really good project. A couple more things, we could hammer out and fine tune in that area, and we spoke about that yesterday. But again, just kudos to you.
Well, thank you so much for your kind words. I really appreciate that. Further discussion?
Tagging on to that, if you get a chance to go by the mill, if you haven't, you need to check it out, and the hotel also. I think the general manager told me yesterday they're going to be open for business on the 27th, I think on a Tuesday, and it's sold out that night, on a Tuesday night. So it's going to be good for the city, and good for Starkville, and good for everyone involved.
Sold out.
It's a very nice hotel.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter you have before you is discussion and consideration.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to establish set hours for trick or treating of 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. on October 31st, 2015, as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second? Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, will this be ran in the paper so the public will know?
Yes, we can run it in the paper. Any further discussion on that topic before we leave? I did take a vote, didn't I, Lisa?
Yes, you did.
All right, and the measure passed. The next matter on the agenda is the discussion and consideration of a professional service agreement with Dalhoff Thomas Studio. Discussion.
So moved.
Do you,
Have a, move approval to enter into a contract between the City of Starkville and Dalhoff Thomas Design for the purposes of professional design services and preparation of a Parks and Recreation Master Plan, with the mayor being authorized to execute said contract and direct the city's finance and administration department to pay the monthly invoices until completion of the project, with a total fee for all services being $98,250, and that $75,000 be moved from the ending cash line to the park improvement line in the Park and Recreation Tourism.
motion has been made, it's been read, and reduced to writing. Since it's been read and reduced to writing, I will not ask for it to be reread without objection. Seeing no objection, do I hear a second? Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Walker, do you wish to speak on the merits?
I will. I'd just like to say that we have you all saw the presentation about Dalhoff Thomas, and I'm sure you had a chance to review the contract. We're getting a complete scope of services that are really going to help push our parks forward so we can help make informed decisions as we move forward. And I think this is a project that is certainly on time to help the city of Starkville and as we grow our parks and recreation and make sure that we have a system that's going to be a complement to all the citizens of Starkville and something that we can be proud of. So I think this is a great step in the right direction, and I'm looking forward to the consultants giving us a great plan.
Alderman Carver.
The way I read it is like we could pick and choose what you and I was picking up. We can pick and choose kind of which way we want to tailor their scope, right? Is that how this works?
How you read it, well, essentially when the scope of work, and Mr. Thomas is here if we want to ask him any questions, but how this is, essentially they were giving a fee and then they broke down the other things into line items, so if we wanted to use that or not. And my recommendation would be, you know, if you're looking to things to cut, where would it be? And I think, you know, the economic impact projections, I think that's something that could actually absolutely be helpful. Citizen survey, all of those things. I think the one important thing that's listed under those additional services is conceptual site planning of the existing park. So once they come up with the inventory and the analysis and our programming needs, then they're going to come back for all 8 parks and have at least a conceptual drawing about what might happen. And that's really important, because then we're going to be able to decide as a board are there projects that we want to be able to take and move forward with, and that's going to give us a great jumping off point. So I think those things are critical to the success of this. Not only knowing what do we have, but how do we move forward.
I guess the question was going to be, is this a $98,000 blanket approval, or will there be some tailoring and tweaking as we go through this? And, you know, I guess that was kind of my question. Is this pretty much approving the whole $98,000, or we're saying that it's yet to come, or yet to come?
I think this would be approving the whole scope of the project.
I would like to say one more thing while we've got you here, and I will be voting for this, but I'm going to especially be looking for the reason we probably got into the discussion twofold, but one of the reasons we got into this discussion about the park in the initial is we were probably looking for areas to improve our park system through return on investment. If we invest in our park, let the parks pay for themselves. So just kind of keep that in the back of y'all's mind as you do this. Is what are some big bang, you know, pie in the sky kind of stuff? But I know we've often talked about little league tournaments. If that, you know, and what kind of return on investment we have. If we did spend a considerable amount of money on some new fields, would it even be worth it as a city to draw those, you know, 50 and 60 tournaments or team type of tournaments? But that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for y'all to do, is tell us what we got to do to get to the next step. And we've heard a lot of other sister cities and their names, but you know, I would like to see the park become much more profitable. So, thank you.
further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Saying none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter you have before you is discussion and consideration of travel.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve of the travel to attend the Mississippi Municipal League's 2016 Midwinter Conference in Jackson, Mississippi. The conference is scheduled for January 12th through 14th, 2016, which will be held at the Hilton Hotel in Jackson, Mississippi, with advance payment of travel and registration as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, I noticed from the cover sheet that 4 aldermen are going. I just want the public to know who those 4 aldermen are, so we'll just have some transparency on who's going. Will you please tell me?
Would you like those names read?
Please, sir.
All right, let me get to it in the packet.
Mr. Mayor?
Would you raise your hand if you're one of the aldermen going? I'm going as well.
Mr. Mayor?
So that's-
I'd like to clarify on behalf of Ms. Carlisle, she'd mentioned earlier, this figure is kind of floating right now because she's not sure. She put down several that were planning on going. Like, I'm one that said I may be able to go. If I go, it'll probably just be for one day and come back, so I will not be there the entire time, go down for the classes and so forth, but I don't know that I'll stay the entire time if I'm able to go. So I'm included in that number, but I may not be going. I guess what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so the 3 hands with Alderman Little's caveat I saw on this end are Carver, Nguyen, Little, and Vaughn, then plus me. That'd be Mayor plus 4.
Very good, man. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is discussion of the overcrowding ordinance.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to adopt an ordinance establishing fines and penalties for overcrowding of facilities and structures within the city of Starkville, Mississippi, as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is
Approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve of the landscape waiver request for the proposed cookout restaurant located at Highway 112, or located at 112 Highway 12 West, as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
I didn't say that.
That was me.
Oh, excuse me, Alderman Little has made that motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Alderman Perkins?
Very brief. I see that tree board had an opportunity to have a rare meeting. I'm very impressed with their findings. So very
And
supportive.
they did recommend.
Yes, yes, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for approval of the preliminary plat request for HPM Development. Discussion. Discussion? Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the preliminary plat request for HPM Development located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Garrett Road and Highway 12 West with conditions as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion? Yes, sir. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter you have before you is request for approval of the claims docket. Discussion. Motion's been made by Alderman Little to approve of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments, including the Starkville Electric Department as of October 14, 2015, for fiscal year ending September 30, 2016, as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Little, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clear. All right, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, measure clearly passes. Next matter before you is a request for approval of the September 2015 financial statement.
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of the September 2015 financial statement as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for permission to,
Move approval.
motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to allow the use of a 2004 Crown Vic as the charter vehicle for Pink Hills. This car will be painted pink and used in the community events throughout the year. Funds to paint this vehicle will come from money donated to the Pink Hills Committee as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
I think it'll be a great event for all cancer survivors in the city. As the pink fire truck come in town, I think it'll be a great event for some to go and write their name on it, get a chance to see it.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Alderman Carver.
So, I mean, I don't have reservations about this. It's just kind of, it's going to be sitting at a fire station, or we're going to see this pink car going up and down the highway every day, and what's it going to have marked on it? Because we'll get those kind of calls, so.
No, it'll be at the station. We use it to go to the driving area. Pretty much, doing the deals or different events like that.
Yeah.
It'll be at the station pretty much.
Going to go out to eat in it one day?
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for permission to allow SFD to host Pink Hills 5K Run event at Fire Station Number 2. Discussion.
I move approval, and I just have a question for Chief Yarborough.
All right, you want me to take your motion before you ask questions? You want to ask a question first?
Let me ask you first. I didn't see any supporting documentation as far as a map. Are you gonna get with Chief Nichols as far as where you, the boundary, where you're gonna be running, and so they can block off the roadways accordingly?
I think we're gonna be at, I think we'll be okay, but I'll give you
Now, those guys have done that before, so it may be a good resource for you to pull from as far as what you may encounter. So I would suggest that to you. Thank you.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to allow SFD to host a Pink Hills 5K Run Pink Hills event at Fire Station Number 2 on October 31st, 2015, as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Alderman Vaughn.
It's just the same day that the All-Timers walk, the same day?
It is.
What time is this gonna be charged?
This is gonna start at 7:30.
In the morning? What time All-Timers?
9 is registration, 10 is the walk.
Gives you plenty of time, Alderman Bone. You can make plenty of time.
You'll just be warming up.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman Walker.
I do have one question. Is and this is for you, Mayor, I guess, or for I don't see Mr. Sanders. Is does this event not trigger our special events permit?
It could, since it's internal, it also could be interpreted as the approval of an internal city event.
Okay, thank you.
You could choose to go that route, but I think there is a distinction since you're depending on one of your departments to coordinate the event, and you have more control over that department than you do a member of the general public.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion. Alderman Carver.
Back to that note, the Alderman from Ward 7 is also the same Alderman, I believe, beat the mayor in a 5K and I think we came in close together, so you don't have any problem with running both of these races.
Beating the mayor in a 5K is no feat.
Just trying to figure out how can I make both of them, that's all. I don't wanna run together.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is request for permission to purchase 2 custom E1 apparatus from state contractor at a total cost of $1.154 million. Discussion.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve the purchase of 2 custom E1 apparatus from state contract at a total cost of $1,154,470. This amount will be paid over a 15-year lease purchase plan using funds from state rebate funds. The annual payment will be $99,428.18. These fire apparatus will replace engine 3 and engine 5 as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
Yes, sir. did a presentation on these vehicles last board meeting and talked about the need for them and what they were going to be replaced. And, in looking at the packet this week, and I talked to Chief and realized there's not a lot of detail in this packet, he did forward me additional documentation that I requested from him. I know that we're also in some discussions with the city attorney about different options of financing these, if there was a better option than looking at what we had. City attorney, don't let me speak for you, but recommendation was to go with the 15-year lease as presented, to finance straight out through a local lender. We would be limited to a 5-year term, and that was not an option. So I think we're good to go with this. We're gonna be able to use the rebate money to pay for this. That money is already budgeted in the line. The first payment for this will not be until the next fiscal year. That's correct.
November 27, 2016, November 27.
So the money we budgeted previously to pay for the ladder truck will then roll over a budgeted item into payment for these. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Eddie, Alderman Carver.
City Attorney, do you have any heartburn over this at all, or?
No, I think that's the appropriate way. Normally, it's been the city's custom and practice to lease purchase heavy equipment. Alderman Maynard's absolutely right, that if it was a straight bank financing, we're capped at a 5-year term, which would make the annual payments extremely rugged for a $1.1 million purchase. And so the benefit of lease purchases is tax-free, and you get to extend it out through the life of the equipment.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. I need a moment of personal privilege. Without objection, I can take us into a recess, or I can pass the gavel.
We'll just stand recess about 5 minutes.
All right, any objection? Seeing none, stand in a brief recess. Order.
Yeah, be recognized.
Alderman Maynard.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we amend item 14 XVIA to specifically discuss the job performance of the personnel officer, assistant personnel officer, and payroll clerk, and the city clerk.
So you want that at the very end of the agenda, coming back into open session? Is that correct?
No, right here, Mayor. He's just specifically enumerating 14.
Okay, all right, I got you. All right.
What was that motion again, Mayor?
I'm fixing to read it. The motion, all right, do you want to replace the matters that are currently there, or do you want to reorder those matters?
Just reorder those matters.
All right, the motion is to amend the agenda, all under Roman numeral 14. Do you want these to be placed at the front or the back of that?
That's fine.
All right, adding the following items at the beginning of executive session and moving personnel and potential litigation beneath these items in the executive session. To specifically, or you want these all lumped under one item?
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so it's gonna be add a new item A under Roman numeral 14, make what was previously item A, item B, make what was previously item B, item C. The item A would be to specifically discuss the job performance of the personnel officer, assistant personnel officer, and payroll clerk, and the city clerk. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion? Do I hear a second? Second. Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter before you is the request for approval to hire. Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to hire Michael Dillon Reed to fill a vacant position of maintenance worker in the Starkville Utilities Public Services New Construction Rehab Division as presented. Alderman Manager, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Manager, you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter before you is request for approval. Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve the advertisement to fill the vacant position for firefighter in the fire department. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter before you is the approval to advertise. Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve the advertisement to fill the vacant position, to fill the position for an equipment operator in the landfill division of the Sanitation and Environmental Services Department as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do. Ms. Gandy, I just want to clarify, as we're bringing new people in, especially equipment operators, with this new equipment that we're under maintenance contracts with, we're making sure everybody understands what they can and cannot do to that equipment, so we make sure we do not void any warranties or maintenance contracts. Thank you very much. No further discussion, Mayor.
Any further discussion, any further discussion, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is a request for approval to advertise to fill a vacant.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the advertisement to fill a vacant position of laborer in the Sanitation and Environmental Services Department as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is a request for approval for authorization for Mayor Parker Wiseman to execute an agreement with Prime Pay as submitted through Regions Insurance for COBRA services, retiree billing, and other related services.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve authorization for the Mayor Parker Wiseman to execute an agreement with Prime Pay as submitted through Regions Insurance for COBRA services, retiree billing, and other related services as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
The city attorney has something he'd like to say.
Board, this is one of a series of contracts that were presented to us by Regions. There were 12 in all. 11 were negotiated to our satisfaction. This was the only one that contained a snag. This contract with Prime Pay contains those provisions that the AG advises the city not to enter into: the limitation of liability, indemnification, a choice of law provision applying Delaware law, and a venue provision saying that if any dispute arises under this contract, venue will be in the federal court in Delaware. So just wanted you to notice or be aware that those provisions are in there and couldn't be negotiated out before you voted tonight. And that's the only reason this contract came back to you. All the other 11 were signed by the mayor because we could agree on terms.
Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Attorney, in light of your legal representation to us, are you recommending for the board to go ahead and approve this tonight?
No, I don't. I mean, from a strictly legal standpoint, I would advise not executing it. Now, I understand there are tremendous public policy considerations weighing on the other side, but with me looking at this with legal blinders on, it does violate those AG opinions.
Further discussion? Any further
Mr.
discussion?
Mayor, I withdraw my second.
All right, so without objection, the second has been withdrawn. That'd be Alderman Maynard, do you still wish to make the motion?
Yes, sir.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 3 in favor with 4 against, this measure fails. Now, we have to have a contract in place for COBRA administration. Mr. Boyd, what options does that leave us?
Mayor, we have been using Ceridian services. We can continue to use Ceridian. The problem that we're going to have is that Ceridian has been bought out by another firm, and our January, and then we're gonna be faced with exactly the same situation all over again. This is one of the deals, the city attorney worked fervently with the arrangements. PrimePay is a big company, national company, and, you know, they have a standard agreement that they will not negotiate. But we are going to be faced with the same issue, to have any provider for COBRA services and retiree billing. PrimePay was offering services much in excess of what we've had with Ceridian, I don't think Ceridian can meet for us what PrimePay was going to be able to do.
And this is a form contract. This is something, of course, that we encounter from time to time, and we always negotiate vigorously. But there are times when it is a national vendor that is using a form contract where they're not going to negotiate those provisions out. The only reason the city attorney offers the hesitation that he offers on form contracts like this is because of the strong language the Attorney General's office has issued. And again, we have to weigh the public policy considerations as to whether, despite the counseling against by the Attorney General's office, it is still in the best interest of the city to enter an agreement. I would say in this case, it's not even close. This is a service that is necessary for us to have, and if we're not able to do this service with this vendor, the quality of service that we have under the contract most certainly will suffer. And frankly, I just don't think it's worth it to get the provisions in question out of a contract to take a substantial hit on the service that we get from it. Alderman Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Attorney, you have been intensely involved in this. What recommendation do you have to us as a client as to recommended legal options that we can consider adopting or approve with respect to getting through this dilemma?
I think you could approve the contract as is with the informed consent that those provisions are still in there, but you make a policy consideration that the countervailing policy considerations of signing people up for insurance outweigh those legal red flags that the AG has noted. Or you can let the 3-4 vote stand and have that vote reported back to PrimePay and see if that provides the city any leverage on getting PrimePay to take out these terms at the next board meeting, given that Ceridian's coverage runs through December.
So, but you hadn't told me anything other than what you have already told us. We already know that we let the 3-4 votes stand. We know that we can reconsider, but what other legal options, if any, do you have for your client here? That's all I'm
You could
asking.
approve the contract with those provisions that I struck be stricken, and hand it back to them and say, these are our terms, and see if they'll capitulate to those terms.
So have you discussed with them about the language that the board just didn't approve? Have you know about what the Attorney General's office said? You discussed that with them?
We did. We sent in the AG opinions to them.
And their reply was?
They refused to budge on the terms.
So what is your thought, recommendation to your client if you tell them that we voted 3-4? What's your thoughts? I'm just talking this through so we can get, what are your thoughts? You know, you work closely with this. We're just friendly talking here. What are your thoughts if you tell them this 3-4? What do you think the reply will get back?
Yeah, I have not had one-on-one contact with PrimePay. It was going through Regions. Regions forwarded the AG opinions to PrimePay. It was represented back to me and Mr. Boyd, I believe, that PrimePay would not budge on those terms. But I have not personally spoken with PrimePay, so I don't have a personal feel as to whether they had a negotiating room or not.
Let me ask you this last question. So, if, you know, and if the board, and your opinion is very, you know, of course, I hadn't worked closely with this, and your opinion was very important to me, and of course, as an attorney. But let's say the vote, 3-4 votes stands tonight, and if it's the will of the board, I don't know what the board's going to say when I'm speaking for the vice mayor. Do you think that you could, if the board allows this, you could let this vote stand, you could talk with them and come back to us at the second meeting in December when the mayor and all the aldermen will be here. And then, so certainly, you know, we need to have some type of contract, but still we'll be within that time frame. So you think there'll be enough time to allow you to talk with them and come back with some recommendation to the board so you can get, we need to get something adopted, but I think I'd like to see some effort on this. And Mayor, with that being said, Mayor, you know, of course, they said we have until December 31, so you and the full board will be here on the 17th of November, so we certainly will still within that time frame. I like to see what response the city attorney can get, and, you know, the lawyer's opinion is very important on these provisions, so, you know, we're not gonna lose the deal, so we can come back on the 17th, let him report about the 3-4 vote, and he can effectively communicate our position, so we're still gonna be within the time frame before, you know, December 31st. We'll be able to get something before, you know, before that time is done.
Mr. Boyd, in
Be
the
happy to,
event that
Buster.
you get approval on November 17th, are there any concerns about getting the contract executed and in place in time not to have a lapse in service?
Mayor, I think we would be okay. I would have to verify that with the regions, but it's my opinion that we would be okay. But that's gonna have to be a absolute drop dead date for us.
All right. Any further discussion on that topic? Seeing none, the next matter before you is a request for authorization to hire. Motion has been made to authorize the hire of Samtarius Levon Moore, Joshua Patrick Hogue, to fill the vacant positions for firefighter in the Starkville Fire Department. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is request for authorization. Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to authorize adding 21 body cameras and 3 VU links to the city inventory. These items were purchased by JAG Grant as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for authorization. Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to authorize Chief Frank Nichols to attend the FBI Law Enforcement Public Information Officer Symposium with advanced travel not to exceed $550 as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And motion clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for authorization.
moved.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to authorize Emma Gandy to attend the Mississippi Recycling Coalition Conference in Tupelo, Mississippi, October 27th, 28th, 2015, with advanced travel not to exceed $525 as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for, motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to authorize Terry Kemp to travel to Franklin, Tennessee for the 7 States Power Company, is it Power Company? 7 States Power Company and TVA, TV PPA meetings on October 26th and November 4th and 5th at a cost not to exceed $500 as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is a request for authorization for Starkville Utilities to proceed with, motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to authorize Starkville Utilities to proceed with Dell for installation of and mitigation of information to server purchase from Dell as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. That exhausts the open session portion of your agenda. Motion to go into motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to go into closed session to determine whether there is need for an executive session. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Vaughn, who wishes to speak on the merits. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure really passes. I'll ask that the public clear the premises so that the board can begin executive session, or begin closed session deliberation. Hey.
How's everything? How many students you have here tonight?